Well, hello everybody, and welcome. Yeah, this isn't gonna work.
Not gonna work.
I'm just looking at the way the screen was set up, and couldn't really see certain people. So.
Oh.
But
you could definitely make me smaller.
Nope, we're good. We're good. So, yeah. Welcome everybody to Artifacts Worlds Wide's GM chat with Mike and Jeff. And this evening we've got a special guest with us. All the way from the lands of Aecathan, our good friend Nikki Grams is joining us.
Sorry.
AKA Zori.
Right. So, what we're going to talk about tonight is kind of looking at Dungeons and Dragons in terms of the mechanics of the game, in terms of sort of the nuts and bolts of how it all works. And we're going to talk about pretty much any edition. I never actually played Chainmail. Never actually got to do that, but I've played pretty much every other edition that's come out. So we're going to talk about, what we remember, what we like, what we don't like. And one of the things that we're going to talk about with Nikki is all of us have had a bit of a learning curve moving from the editions that we know to 5th edition, and nobody put up more of a fuss than Nick.
Oh, yeah, no. I put my foot down vehemently, said no.
Yep.
I definitely traumatized everyone and did my own fist pounding.
Yep.
Yep.
Digging in.
Yep.
Oh, yeah, no, I totally did. I threw a tantrum every time it came up. I was like, no, I don't want it.
And then, of course, when we put together a 5th edition game, she was like, fine, I'll play. I hate it, but I'll play.
I did. I did. And then I was like, okay, this is a little bit better.
And periodically during that particular game, there was, I fucking hate 5th.
Oh, yeah. Just because we weren't using D&D Beyond, which made it a lot easier, but it was still...
Yeah.
We can get into that whenever we're at that area.
Yeah. But yeah, it all started with a version that was basically just sort of a mind dump over a core concept, and that was the original advanced Dungeons and Dragons. When they first started putting out the hardcover books. And the one thing I can say about that version of the game was that I don't think the word balance had entered into anyone's brain. It was,
no.
Can we make this all work by the same set of rules, and does it make sense, and can we explain it well enough that people will understand what we're trying to say? And, and of course the Gary Gygax mindset, very, very different from the mindset of the people running D&D today.
Yeah.
The Gygax mindset was, these are the rules, you will follow all of them.
Well, he came from the whole battle, sort of tabletop battle arena type game. It was all combat driven. And so when he came up with the rules for D&D, it was very much that same mentality. Wasn't a whole lot of thought given to role playing.
No.
It was, here's your dice, this is what your sword does for damage, blah, 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 here's where you move on the map, and duke it out. And that was what Dungeons and Dragons initially was. And yes, it's much different nowadays.
Yeah.
Do you feel that the people who first started playing it were kind of like people who start playing Kickstarter games where maybe all of the mechanics haven't been figured out, but they're just so stinking excited that they just play it and learn as they go.
That was absolutely what was going on, because there really wasn't, when D&D first hit, there really wasn't anything else.
Right. Like I say, Gary Gygax, he was a game developer, but he did the war games, you know, the tabletop simulation war games, and he and I can't remember the guy's name that co-created D&D with him now, but
Dave, somebody.
But they came up with the concept for Dungeons and Dragons, which is just a sort of fantasy world version of a war game.
Dave Arneson.
They really didn't need to do anything else to it. They had the rules in place for it, but it was all, you know, black and white text, essentially. There's a little bit of illustration in it, but not a lot.
Right.
Yeah, it was all in like a little notebook, kind of like a little pamphlet or something, wasn't it?
Yep.
Called Chainmail?
Yep. That's exactly what it was.
I missed out on that early back.
Well, I wouldn't say missed out necessarily.
True.
The one thing I always remember was when 2nd edition came out, my first gauge of whether or not it was going to be better was to flip to the index of the player's handbook and look at doors.
Doors?
Doors. 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 And in the 2nd edition book, all of the entries for doors were right around the same pages. In the 1st edition player's handbook, there were like 8 different pages throughout the book if you wanted information on how to deal with doors.
Right. No common groupings.
No, there really wasn't a lot of organization.
Yeah, it needed some logistics.
Again, kind of like Kickstarter games where they haven't quite. You might, if you get a 1st edition Kickstarter game, the book might be different than when it comes out for retail, because you've got those first few people who play it. What's it called? Test play.
Yep.
And then they work out
game testers. Yep. You game tested 5th edition, didn't you, Jeff?
Yes,
we did. Yeah.
Yeah, we actually.
I remember playing it that time. I remember playing it, and I'm like, it was pretty cool. I liked it as well as I liked 3rd edition, which surprised me, especially after trying 4th edition.
Yeah.
But,
well, 4th was a stumble.
I didn't find it good enough during that play test. It was plenty good. It was every bit as good as 3rd, but it wasn't enough to blow me away to want to get rid of my $600-700 3rd edition collection.
Right.
Start investing into another set.
Right.
So that was what my foot dragging was all about with 5th edition, as was 3rd edition from 2nd.
Sure.
The same thing. I had all the 2nd edition books. I'm like, why would I reinvest in another? This is just crazy.
Yep. And the biggest problem I had with any of that was the movement from 3 to 3.5.
Yeah,
that was the one where I absolutely put my foot down and went, no, I am not buying $1,000 worth of books again. 3 works just fine for me.
Yep.
Right.
But
we play house rules with 3 with spell points.
Yep.
And that made all the difference in the world to me, even on 3.
Yeah, I never Mike and I have talked about this on this show before, but I just never really got my brain around the whole spell slot idea. I still don't necessarily like it, but they've made it so it works a little bit better in 5th. So I can sort of
Well, I think the thing they did in 5th, and we've talked about it on the show before, with spells that makes it I think work is the cantrips.
Yeah.
Yes.
Not having any cost.
Yes. And so my reasoning for not liking 5th was we did start a home game with 5th. I believe I was trying to be a priest or some kind of healer. And at lower levels, we were, level 1, level 2. It just seemed like I could not, you get hit for 10 hit points and you can only heal for 4, one person.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to be hurting unit. And that was, it seemed so off balance for healers.
And at first it is.
Yeah, because you don't know how to use the things and do the thing.
Right. But once you get up to into 2nd tier, then you can start doing some stuff.
Even 4th level is not bad,
Yeah.
But in the beginning, when I tried and felt absolutely helpless for my, the rest of my party to have to wait until a long rest to get everything back. And it's like, I can't heal you anymore. I'm sorry. I can stand here and cantrip you to death. But I mean,
If you can sit through a long rest, you don't need healing after that.
Exactly. Right. So that was my initial feet down. I find it challenging because I hate feeling more than normal out of control in a D&D situation where despite my best efforts, I'm not living up to what I can do, right? I'm trying to heal and it felt like my hands were tied and I just couldn't heal to a degree that I felt the party needed to be healed to.
Yeah. Well, that's one of the big things that, I've had to adjust to in trying to run 5th is that I'm, I grew up coming through all the previous editions and I can't really say about 4th because I never played it enough, but 1st, 2nd, and 3rd, and even originally the basic set that came before Advanced, it was built around the idea of combat encounters. And, you grab an old module from 1st or 2nd edition and go through and look at the amount of fighting that the characters are going to be doing in that. And it's absolutely insane. It's just, boom, 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 boom. Yep. You can't do that in 5th.
Nope.
Not if you want to keep a party alive.
Yeah. I mean, you literally have to design things so that there's, 1, maybe 2 battles before they can figure out some way to have a long rest.
Depending on how tough the combat is, yeah.
Yeah.
Or how cheap the potions are.
Well, there's that too, yeah.
But even still, I mean, your sorcerers run out of spell slots. I mean, they still got their cantrips, but that's not going to carry you through a big fight. If you're fighting, orcs or whatever it is, you can get by. But if you're fighting something nasty, you have no spell slots left. That's a problem.
Yep. And that's the other interesting thing is that something I was thinking about last night. There's, even if you're down to nothing but cantrips, you're still able to deal, an amount of damage similar to what someone can do with a sword or a mace.
Sure.
Right.
But if you're just down to cantrips, there's no healing.
Right. That's exactly it. Well, I can do this one person for this one thing.
And I have to wonder if that's deliberate or if that's an oversight.
I don't think it's an oversight. I think the culture of D&D now is weighs more on the storytelling and role playing than it does just kick down the door, kill, loot, kick down the door, kill, loot, repeat. You know, but I mean, the fun thing I think about it, at least from a game master standpoint, is it would be a fun thing to try to do the power gaming, you know, the murder hobo style, and then watch the players have to come up with new strategies to figure out how to do that, because they're not going to do too well, you know, using that method for very long.
Yeah.
So
Right.
now, because I'm a lot heavier into role playing now and storytelling and the narrative, fifth edition is end all be all to me. My old age, I've kind of slowed down from the hack and slash, kill 'em all thing. You know, that's a game for the young. So, yeah, I love fifth edition. It was, once I crossed over, I was ready to cross over. I was glad to come aboard.
Well, my fifth edition character before Zorith is probably, well, I want to say my favorite for different reasons. Like, I love my third edition character that we've been playing for a long time. She's very special to me. But because I came over from third and had so terribly not wanted to do fifth, I really thought about like the backstory and how these spells were gonna like work. And I really worked on the roleplay part of it. You know, she's got a crazy backstory with, you know, all this roleplay stuff, and then working in how to do, you know, she's a bard. So, you know, I don't necessarily sing in front of other people like that. So it was like, well, what am I going to use instead? And then just kind of, you know, formed it all around it. And just D&D Beyonding it, you know, so I could see it all in front of me. And then, you know, I'm a firm believer in the book because I know where to go and look to find it. But just the way that the fifth edition ended up like I settled into it a lot easier because I had so much backstory figured out.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Again, it goes back.
And with the third edition, my backstories were smaller. Like, I had an idea and then I just built it a tiny bit. And then with my fifth edition, I really tried to get as much as I could fleshed out, you know, but also the fifth edition, the second one, came after I restarted watching Critical Role.
Yeah, I was just going to say, how much did Critical Role help change your mind?
A lot. And the reason was I had stopped watching Critical Role season 1 fairly early on for reasons, and hadn't gotten back into it. And Buddy Allman told me that Critical Role was doing a one-shot with World of Warcraft themed characters for the new expansion of Hearthstone, which was called Kobolds, Catacombs, and Dragons. Oh my. And Matt Mercer had voiced some of the characters in the Hearthstone. And I was like, well, I kind of like Critical Role a little bit the first time. And I absolutely love World of Warcraft. So I'll watch the whole thing, and was just like, oh my God, I've missed this so much. And just started season 1 again, campaign 1, and then it was like, oh, all right, I see a little bit how fifth works. I'm open to it. And that's what happened. So I was very much influenced again by, you know. watching someone else play it and work around how things, how they played the 5th edition part of it. So
it was 1,000% the reason why I went over was Critical Role. It's same as you, Nikki. When I was watching, I was paying very close attention to how the game mechanics worked and how it did it. And the very first time I saw this one particular mechanic, I was sold immediately because I thought it was brilliant. And we've talked about it on this show before.
Yep.
Advantage, disadvantage. That's all I needed to hear. When I saw that, I'm like, that is the most brilliant mechanic you can put in any role-playing game.
And it's so fucking simple.
yeah,
You know, it's one of those things that I actually came across it when I read the Player's Handbook for the first time, and I just sat and gaped at the page for a second like, my God, I've been playing for like 30 years. How did I never think of this?
Well, right, because you spend all these points in doing something that you would be technically really good at.
Yeah.
Or if somebody's going to help you lift something, it theoretically in the story, you would be much better at it.
And from a mechanics point of view, I mean, you could do it in other types of mechanics. Someone's helping you, okay, well, they get to add their strength modifier to yours,
right.
And blah, blah, blah.
That's how it works in 3rd.
Right. But advantage, disadvantage. Perfect. It's the perfect game mechanic.
Yep, because it still gives you the opportunity to fail. It just makes it significantly less likely.
Yes.
Yep.
Or more likely.
Yes, if it's disadvantage, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I had the basics just from, I sat down over the course of a week and actually read the 5th edition Player's Handbook cover to cover. So I've read everything at least once, but I still wasn't getting some of it. Watching Critical Role, I was able to figure out the stuff that I hadn't really wrapped my brain around from just reading the book.
Right.
Also, seeing people who it's their profession and they're very skilled at it, and seeing how it can work quickly or effortlessly. I, of course, am at a disadvantage when we play the home game because I am by Zoom. And before pandemic, it was, easier. We all kind of shot the breeze, looked at our phones, waited for the other person to finish their thing.
Yep.
And when you get on Zoom, it's so difficult to hear sometimes. And, you talk over other people that it becomes a little more disjointed. Well, then when I saw the Kobolds one shot, it was pretty smooth, and things seemed to go easier. I don't want to say quicker, but just, it just seemed to kind of roll a little faster. Watched another one shot by them. And then, like I said, started with campaign, and then seeing it without like trying to struggle through it ourselves. Really helped.
Yeah. Well, I've said before on here, and Mike is in agreement with this, that, Critical Role's a masterclass on playing D&D. With the 5th edition, it's a masterclass for playing it. It's a masterclass for running it. Right, and there are other ones out there who show how they take their take on how they would play something, and they're not bad, they're not wrong, they're just different. But kind of because they're professional, they do it every single week. They, it's a learning guide. You take what you can from Critical Role and apply it to your own thing. Like, actively paying attention and taking really good notes is something that I took from Critical Role big time, because
huge.
Well, yeah, even though they are there every week, um, it's been a while since, they showed up in the beginning, and what was this town that we hadn't gone through in, you know, 3 years in real time.
Um, Something I noticed with our uh, game is, we're on what season or episode 13?
Yeah, we just did 13 last night.
Yeah.
Um, we're getting a lot better at it. A lot better at the role playing part of it. Not this, the one last night was pretty good, but the game we had before, I thought was very, very close to anything that's going out there right now. It was very good. And I think that's just because we're getting in our groove, we're getting to know the characters, and we're practicing, we're playing every week. And I think that it's starting to sharpen, starting to hone in. And so that's one of the reasons, Critical Role, yeah, they're all voice actors and they're all really good improv, and they've had some training. That's not what makes them good at playing D&D. What makes them good at playing D&D is that they've played pretty much on a regular basis for 3 years before they even did their show.
Mm-hmm.
And they know each other and they know.
Yeah. But it's just a matter of doing it, and if and it's starting to gel with us, I think. And I think that's the biggest reason for their success is because they've been doing this for, now going on 5 years.
Yep.
Consistently.
Yeah, consistently.
Yeah. I mean, because other people will say, well, they're not the only ones that have been playing for 5 years. True. But
right. But here's the thing.
They're tight.
Yeah.
If there's another group out there who has played for a long period of time consistently, I'll bet they're just as good.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's like anything else. If you do it often enough, you get good at it.
I hope so.
And yeah.
You start to know where the holes are, not plot holes, but like covering for each other's, I don't want to say shortcomings, but how do you have a cleric that doesn't really heal? Well,
right.
They made it work, and Caduceus came in and, she
filled off a character and brought in another one.
Yeah. I mean, it's not like, it's not like, she didn't heal. It's just, it
wasn't her first.
It was more balanced for the party to figure out how to work around that.
Yeah.
Yeah. One of the things that I've noticed is because I'm one of those people who no one will ever critique me as hard as I critique me.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that I had noticed was that I wasn't picking up on all of your cues as to when you were actually done with a role-playing session, and I absolutely didn't want to step on it and end it prematurely before you all were ready to be done if you still had things you wanted to talk about. That's the one thing that I've been trying to work very hard on is to not be afraid of silence, to go ahead and, let those pauses happen and not feel like I have to step in and fill them.
Right. And that's something we're kind of learning more as players too, especially like this, is when there are dead spots, one of us will kind of kick in with something or pick up with something and kind of fill it in. We're getting better at that.
It kind of reminds.
It's a little more difficult because there's only 3-4 players.
Yeah.
Now, and we're all on Zoom, so we don't
Zoom.
trying to make sure we're not walking over somebody else, and so you're kind of waiting to see if somebody else says something, and so, but it's coming along, I think, anyway, my opinion.
Yeah, I think so too. One of the things that always makes me laugh and also kind of I think about it is Liam O'Brien, Caleb, at the end of the night, Matt started making it a point of checking with him last thing, is there anything you want to do before bed? And then, Caleb does all his things, but it's kind of like in the beginning, it was awkward because it felt like Liam was interrupting Matt to a certain degree, saying, wait, before we do this, I want to do this. And Matt has adjusted. So it's kind of like, and what last things would you like to do?
Right.
So,
Yes. They sort of worked out a rhythm.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's right. Yeah. And you only do that by playing,
Right.
But anyway, we've gotten completely off topic.
Well, that's okay. That's quite all right.
Well, it's kind of the good point about 5th edition, because I didn't think about these things in 3rd. In 3rd, you've got all of your I can't think of the right word. You've got pick lock, you've got
all the different skills.
All the different skills listed out. And it's kind of,
it can be a little overwhelming.
It takes a little bit of the role play out of it. I don't know.
It's a very crunchy system. It's definitely geared towards combat.
Yeah.
Yes.
And mass combat.
And,
lots of.
I DM'd my first real home game, and it was modern day, but then also it time traveled a little, and they became D&D characters, like orcs and all those things. But in the beginning of me trying to build that world, it was like, boy, it'd be really cool if I could do this in 5th, but I don't know enough about 5th. And I mean, I was just starting to enjoy 5th a little bit, and it was like, oh, I should do this. But then it was like, no, I sincerely, as a dungeon master, would not do that to my players, where it'd be like, I don't know, let me look it up. I have to look it up anyway because I'm not skilled as a DM, but because I knew 3rd really well, I scaled everything onto 3rd.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
So,
as someone who has run games at small conventions, that were based on systems that I had just learned the week before, I absolutely feel you. Running the Dresden role-playing game was thrilling, but the same time, it was constant scrambling on my part, because something would come up and I'd be like, oh crap, I have no idea how this works in this game. Fudge, until I figure it out, and that's not terribly fun.
For me, I can only read so many rules before I'm like, I'm not retaining anything. I need to get in there and play this, because that's how I really learn a system. Just get in and play it. And fumble through it and look through books, and this came up, okay, let's see what it says, and go through it that way. That's the only way I can retain any of this stuff.
I would like to I have a friend named Shelly, and she would really, really, really like to learn how to play. Mm-hmm. But she's hesitant because she's kind of listened in while we've played some games and stuff, and she's been like, wow, that sounds really fucking complicated. And it's like, it is and it's not once you get it. Mm-hmm. But trying to teach her 3rd, I don't think so. And we're gonna try to teach her 5th, because it seems so much more user friendly,
Well, yeah, the thing is it's complicated, but a lot of it is repetition. And after you play it and you do it for a little bit, okay, it's the same thing. Okay, all right, I got it. The only thing to do is spell casting. You want to look up the spell and know what it does, and that takes some work.
Yeah.
But other than that, it's a lot of make a wisdom saving throw. Okay, where's that? It's right there. Okay. Roll the dice. Boom. Next
And
time, make a wisdom saving throw, and you're like, oh, I know where that is. All right. And you just get better at it.
Yeah.
Right. But also expecting yourself and allowing yourself to be okay with making mistakes the first few times you do anything, and having a group that's willing to be like, no worries, I totally did it.
There you
Let me
go.
find it.
That's the important thing, is having the right person, right people to do it with that are helpful.
Yep. People who go, oh Lord, I remember when I started. Yeah, no problem. Here's how you figured this out.
Right.
Well, and with 5th edition, I'm still doing that. So
sure. Perfect. I was just thinking, perfect. I don't know how well this will show up, but if you can see, I'm trying to angle the thing right.
Is that your cheat sheet on the wall? Is that your GM screen?
Those are handwritten cheat sheets for the different ability checks.
Mm-hmm.
Because that was the thing that I was most, and they're sitting right up there, like right out of camera shot, so I can see them. Because, that was the one thing I was like, I don't have this in my head yet.
Right.
And that way, all I have to do is just glance up. And I've gotten better at it. Like, I don't have to do it all the time now, but occasionally, and you see, it makes me feel better because I see even Matt do this sometimes. I
was just going to say that, yeah.
Sits for a second and tries to think, what in the world would I have them roll for this?
Or changes his mind.
Yeah.
Mid roll. Oh, wait, no, I think it would be the other thing.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right. But that's been the biggest hurdle for me is just, I completely have already wrapped my brain around the skill system and the feats for 3rd edition. I don't have to check for those. I know exactly what's there and how to make them work and what to call for in what situation and, this and that and the other thing. And I don't know if you remember, but I even went so far as to write out a conversion chart of what the 3rd edition skills translate to in 5th edition.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
I don't
It's
know.
actually it's up on my little site that I put up for our home games.
Oh. I will go look.
Yeah, and I have no idea at this point if it's accurate because I wrote it when I was first learning 5th.
That would be interesting to go through.
Yeah, I've been thinking I should go back and look at that. I might want to take it down.
Well, that's just home
I'll
game
say this,
stuff,
right.
As far as playing 5th edition, for me, the number one most important, most useful tool that I've had at my disposal was D&D Beyond. Because if there was something I didn't have to go thumbing through and, okay, which book is it? You just type it in the search and it goes right to it. The single best tool I've had to learn 5th edition was D&D Beyond. I swear by that. I went and bought their premium.
The big kid pack.
Yep.
The big package of sub, and continue to do so because it's brilliant, fantastic.
Well, and also, the click on mechanics, like, you click it. If you can't do it, it's like, oh wait, I can't do that. Shoot, why can't I do that? And then, trying to figure out, not necessarily trying to figure out why is not easier or harder, but at least you're like, oh, maybe I can't do that. Hold on, let me go back through it and figure out what I'm going to do instead.
It's just like everything in D&D. You got to kind of go through and do it repetitively with D&D Beyond, especially with managing your character sheet. But once you learn where everything is, where the drop-down menus are, where you can do to change things, add things, take them away. Once you get that down, it's like the coolest thing ever.
My bard, I actually I still was learning fifth, and I actually opened up something, and it was like add, manage spells or something. And I was like, wait a minute, I'm like at 3 out of 8. Does that mean I get more spells? And they're like, yeah. And I was like, oh shoot. So then I, filled those in, and it was like, oh,
Right.
good to
And
know.
with and not, it's cool. But
I think from a teaching standpoint, fifth is still a little bit easier to learn, even without D&D Beyond, because the skill checks are so.
They're simple.
Yeah, I don't want to say basic, but simple works. Yeah,
it's like I think the one skill in fifth that encompasses the most skills from third would probably be survival.
Right.
Because survival counts for so many different things that you deal with, probably on a daily basis as an adventurer.
In third, I would say that not necessarily the skill checks themselves or the skills, but once you try to level that,
yeah,
like once you try to start putting in your numbers, that immediately makes it 10 times harder and still makes me anxious.
The whole issue of, class skills versus cross-class skills and,
right.
the fractions of skill points and
still makes me anxious. And I'm like, okay, wait, did I do this right? And how long have we been playing? It's like, oh.
Or just figuring out how many skill points you have based on your class.
Right.
Right, exactly.
Right. It was like I said, it was pretty crunchy. It was a clunky system.
The one that I still to this day have to look up is figuring out what your max ranks can be, depending on what level you are. I still don't have that formula in my head. I've been playing 3rd edition for 15 years.
Yeah, I don't know. I haven't played 3rd edition in a while, so. But
yeah, well, Nikki and I are in a game that, we get to play probably like every other week if we're lucky. And that's a 3rd edition game, so we still have our head in that world too, which gets a little confusing at times. But
I was going to say, is it a difficult transition to bounce back and forth?
It's a harder transition now to go back to 3rd from 5th.
Yeah.
At least for me.
Well, and the thing that has helped us and probably has helped you, you're no longer trying to DM a 3rd edition game where that would be confusing to me. But we were playing there for a while because of who could show up and who couldn't show up. We were playing like 3-4 different campaigns all the same time. And it was like, shoot, I have no idea what's going on right now. I have no idea who I am.
Yeah, we had a game. We had our main game. And then we had a, Mike, you were running a 5th edition game for a little while.
Yep.
And I was running a good old-fashioned hack and slash 3rd edition. We were running through the Giants modules.
Giants, right.
The classic modules. And I had actually started a 5th edition campaign that went like one session.
Yeah.
Maybe 2.
1 or 2 sessions, not very many.
And, there just didn't turn out to be enough time in the week because we were basically just playing on Saturdays.
Yeah.
And it was a matter of, okay, well, this is the main game. When the main game can't meet, we'll divvy those other Saturdays up between Mike's game and the Giants game, depending on who can be where, when.
Right.
And that was a logistical nightmare, too.
Yeah.
Well, my game was all for, like I mentioned a moment ago, that was just for me to learn how to run a 5th edition campaign. It was for getting the familiarity with the rules and how to run a game in general. But that one was pretty fun for a pretty good while. I enjoyed that. And in fact, my current home game is sort of based on the next chapter of that. Yeah.
Yeah, we actually there is one carryover from that campaign into Aecathan.
Yes.
Sure is.
Yep.
That spoiler?
I don't think it's really a spoiler.
Okay.
My character in Mike's game was a gnome warlock whose patron was the goddess of chaos incarnate.
She wasn't a goddess, but
Well,
she was a being, an entity.
And his name was Synchron.
Yes.
And so that's the one little nod that we brought over to Aecathan is the cat that guards the band of fours.
The second. We had two little crossover nods.
Oh, well. Yeah.
What was the other crossover nod?
Brandy sandwich.
Oh, that wasn't from Mike's campaign, though.
Oh, well, I was. Brandy was.
Brandy was her bard.
Yeah. We brought the four of them for the pre-zero campaign, for the lore campaign.
Right. Right.
And Brandy, it was the same character from...
Oh, right. Okay. Well, they were like alternate prime material versions.
Right.
Yeah.
But yeah, so yeah, that's true. Yeah, the brandy sandwich comes from Nikki's character from originally Mike's campaign.
Right.
That got ported into Aecathan and became one of the infamous band of four.
Right. So more lore, less zero campaign, but more lore.
Right.
The late band of four.
Yes. Yes. Well, when
the new fearsome foursome. Oh.
Oh, there it is.
Depending on how long we have our fourth. Terrifying threesome. Ooh, wow, that sounds really awful.
Well, I don't know. Tasha seems to have decided that she's sticking with you all, so.
That does not make me sad at all.
Nope. I'm pretty happy about that.
Yeah. Yeah. We are going to hopefully get a guest player or two in the next couple months.
That would be
Nice.
cool.
Yep.
But the thing I've noticed is having four in the group is pretty solid. It's really starting to gel now. I think it works really well. Three was okay, but I think the fourth one finishes it. It completes the group.
Yep.
Well, especially kind of our dynamic. There's two really close people and then an outsider who wants to be part of the group.
Right.
And becomes part of the group, but it's still kind of,
Yeah.
background jokes and, we've been together forever.
Yep.
And we've been together for longer than any of the characters currently have been alive. So
Right.
And then the three of you sort of bonded, and then a new person showed up.
Right.
But that kind of worked because I think the chemistry was pretty apparent fairly early on. Tasha and Aramin, I think they have some stuff in common. I think they have a certain attitude in common, and so they kind of
both have
well.
a bit of a mischievous streak.
Yes.
Yep. Mischievous. I don't know.
Good enough. Caribbean, whatever.
Right. Tomato, potato. Let's call the whole thing off.
Right.
Yep. Well, we're down to about 10 minutes left, and since you are a special guest...
Oh, shoot. I should have planned my answers. Dang it.
We are going to ask you the questions from the questionnaire made famous by the great French talk show host Bernard Pivot, brought to American audiences by James Lipton on the long-running series Inside the Actors Studio.
Great, and I hope I can think on my feet. Shoot.
Well, we'll find out, won't we?
We sure will.
No pressure.
No pressure. So the first question is, of course, what is your favorite word?
Favorite word. Oof.
Oof. Okay.
No, that's not
That's
my favorite
different.
word.
Oh.
I think okey doke.
Okie doke. I like that.
Okey doke.
Nice.
Because it's not quite okay, and it's not. I actually have a shortcut on my phone. I type in OD and it automatically puts up okey doke, which would be just as easy for me to type okay. But it's just kind of my, not necessarily my signature, but that's my go-to is okey doke.
All right. Fair enough. Now, what is your least favorite word?
Everybody says moist. I don't mind it. I'm learning that should be my least favorite word. Because I think of all the things that I should be doing. I should have a person, a significant other. I should be, making $1 gazillion. I should be all those things. And it's like, I really need to not. And so should would be my non-word.
Yeah, it does. It is a word that carries expectation.
Yeah. Too much.
And I can see that sometimes it would be unreasonable expectation.
Yeah.
I hesitate to ask this one, but it's part of the questionnaire. So, what turns you on creatively, spiritually, or emotionally?
There's a lot that, not necessarily like will get my creative juices going, and also like emotional dance and singing, like on the shows. If it's a really particularly like emotive dance, it will bring me, to tears. And the written word is pretty important to me, because your brain just infuses the flavor for what the author chose, and what your interpretation of it, even viscerally.
Yeah.
And then also like even higher, like your subconscious take from it also, because you can read it, you can understand it, but then all of a sudden it's gonna have that much more meaning to you accidentally sometimes. So there's that answer.
All right. On the opposite side, what turns you off?
Oh. I don't. People who get into your space unwarranted or unwelcomed. Sometimes just taking that extra step towards you and you take that step back, it's like, whoa, we are not in a space where that happens at all. Depending on the situation, but just kind of that needing to take a step back that's definitely that first thing. I don't necessarily know if it's what turns me off or just like warning bells, so sometimes just like having to take that step back because they've just intruded just enough into your space where you're like uncomfortable. Great. All right. Let's not do anything. Done.
Yep. This next question actually dovetails nicely on that answer. What's your favorite curse word?
The F-bomb. It's because I use it for everything.
What is it again?
You can
the
say
F-word.
it.
Oh,
What
fuck.
word?
Fuck this, fuck that, fuck everything. It's pretty prevalent. And I know how they say, my mom always used to say using curse words shows lack of education.
Studies have proven that to be the opposite.
Well, and that's just it. It's like it takes that word that you're substituting and elevates it. So if it's very wrong, it's fucking wrong. I mean,
Right.
you can use the word very, but it's, it's not as emphatic or,
Yeah, there's just something about the emphasis you can put on that word that changes the delivery of a sentence.
Yes. Plus also any CK word is just so much fun to say.
Yeah.
They all sound a little wrong.
Yeah.
If you start going through them in your alphabet, buck, cuck, duck. Well, all right. Well, then I've already gotten, I've already felt uncomfortable once.
Right. What sound or noise do you love?
Ooh. Gosh. When I lived in Michigan, what I didn't have was I live on a really busy street here. And if I sleep with my windows open, I have a lot of guests who come in and they're like, God, how do you deal with all that traffic noise? And it is very comforting to me. Just because it's what I've known for, 18 years of my life consistently was just the sound of home, kind of.
All right. What sound or noise do you hate?
Sometimes silence. Occasionally I'll be walking through the house and it just feels empty, or like I should have on music, because I used to do that a lot. Like, I would just have on something in the background, and occasionally, depending on how I feel, I'll lay down in bed and just, it's too quiet. Like sometimes when the windows are shut during winter, or, it got real cold and I don't have my fan on, I will turn on like Pandora or music and then, fall asleep to that. And then just sometimes silence can just be too much.
All right. What profession other than your own, or one that you've done before, would you like to attempt?
Criminologist.
Really?
In high school, criminologist and archaeologist were like archaeology up until high school. And then I did like a report on criminology, fingerprinting and all that stuff. And then it was kind of like, oh, this is amazing, and trying to figure out. That's why I watch all the Discovery ID and all of the, Killers Are Us and Killer Kids and all that stuff, is just because I'm so, if I had everything to do over again, I would have probably gone down that road.
What profession would you absolutely not like to do?
I have a weak stomach, and it would probably be trash man. If I absolutely had to, I would probably Vicks it up like every single day, like both nostrils full of Vicks, and do it. But the smell thing, which also, if you were a coroner, would be a different, kind of thing. I'd have to Vicks it up too if I was a coroner. But smells for me are hard, so probably trash man.
All right. And finally, if heaven exists, what would you like to hear God say when you arrive at the pearly gates? I think I know the answer, but I'm guessing you're not going to say that one, so.
No, probably not. Wow, that's a tough one, because I have like a go-to flippant answer that no one would understand, but gosh, dang, I should have paid attention and remembered that you were going to ask me these. Now I feel bad. Probably sorry, kid, but welcome anyway.
All right.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, Nikki Grams. Thank you very much for being here.
Thanks for having me. Especially when I was the one that was like, oh, what about this thing? Yeah, you're on. Oh, shoot.
Yeah.
All right, then.
We determined that Nikki was going to be our guest at the end of the Aecathan game last night.
Last night. Yeah.
Yeah.
Not a lot of time to prepare,
So
but
this was a real quick turnaround.
A good topic, so she got elected to come on the show.
Yep.
well, thank you for having me. I thoroughly enjoyed it.
Oh, good. Good. All right. That is going to conclude our programming for the week here. There's a new show that's going to be starting a week from Saturday. And Mike, you want to talk a little bit about that one?
Yeah. Me and Pam will be doing reaction videos to movies. Now, it won't be on Twitch. It'll be on our YouTube channel. But check it out. It'll be kind of fun. We're going to watch movies. I think our first series is going to be like there's a list of top 20 or something like that sci-fi movies of all time. And some of them I've seen, some of them I haven't. And I don't think she's seen a few of them, but I don't think she's seen like very many. And we're just going to do reaction videos to them. And should be interesting, I think. I'm looking forward to it. So, look for it on our YouTube channel, and like, share, and subscribe, and all of that good jazz, and hope to see you there.
Yep. And then
Sounds awesome.
Sunday, board remotely at 3 o'clock. And what are you all doing this week?
Jackbox games, I'm sure.
More Jackbox games. Excellent.
Depending on how many people show up. Like, if it's not enough. There are a few 2-player games, but they're a little bit more difficult.
Yeah. All right. So Jackbox games, and then do you have a topic for Monday night?
No. We never have a topic.
I see.
It's like, what should we talk about? Oh, I don't know. Let's start and wherever it goes and leads us.
Yep. So,
we talked about some crazy things on there.
Player chat at 7 p.m. On Monday. All times are Eastern U.S., by the way. And then Tuesday night, the quartet will be entering the Everwood, and maybe actually making it to Thunder's Edge. We'll have to see.
Actively searching each tree for a remove curse. Is there a remove curse behind here?
Roll perception. And then next Wednesday night, we'll be back with another GM chat. So please do like, subscribe, share, tell your friends. Word of mouth is still really the best advertising in the world. So
tell your enemies.
Yeah.
Tell everybody.
And this video should be up on YouTube sometime tomorrow.
Nice.
So I usually manage within 24 hours turnaround for this show.
Good job.
So,
excellent.
And so until we talk again, have a wonderful week. Remember, stay safe, stay sane, wear your mask. I know it's not fun.
Oh, you wanna hit them up with the
wildfire.
The wildfire.
Oh yeah.
Very smart, Mike.
We are trying to bring awareness to a particular charity. It's called the Wildland Firefighter Foundation. You can get to their website from our website, which is artifactsworldwide.com. And this is an organization that helps support the families of firefighters who are either injured or have lost their lives in the line of duty. And they are in particular need of funds right now to help all of the families of all of the brave women and men who are fighting the wildfires all up and down the West Coast.
Serious business, folks.
Yep. So if you can, check out our website, artifactsworldwide.com. The link is right on the front page. You'll see it. It's in bright green. It's hard to miss. And it'll take you to a page where you can get the link to them. And anything you can offer will be helpful. I know that, this is a horrible time to be asking people to shell out extra money in the middle of a pandemic, but this is when the fires are happening. So, even if you can, even if it's $1, that's a bit of food that they'll be able to send to a family who's just lost their primary breadwinner.
Yep.
So if you can help, I'm sure they'll appreciate it. We would also appreciate it as well.
Yep.
All right. So until we talk again, remember, just have fun. That's what these games are all about. And,
your way. Don't let people tell you it has to be our way.
Right. And we'll talk to you next week. Good night, everybody.